And then we are also going to see some demonstration about how we can quickly draft emails using the Copilot in Microsoft Outlook. So let's begin with the Copilot. So what is Microsoft 365 Copilot? So Microsoft 365 Copilot, it represents a new work paradigm fostering the collaboration between the AI and employees. So let's say you are the employee and you are working on any of the things, whether it's a Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, any of the services that you are using, how you can interact with the Copilot, how you can connect with the artificial intelligence with the help of Copilot. That's what we are going to learn, and that's where the Copilot will help you. Because what is Copilot? You can consider Copilot as a super brain. It's a generative AI, which means like whatever you think, whatever you are trying to ask the Copilot, then it will try to think deeper into it and provide you some more insights which you were looking for. So Copilot helps you in that. It also aims to transform your work in the digital age, like it can help you increasing your productivity in your day-to-day task. So Copilot helps a lot in that. You can consider Copilot as your personal assistant, wherein you ask something in Copilot, and then Copilot will provide you the details. And being a human, you validate it. Like, do not consider Copilot response as the final response. It's your responsibility to validate that response, and if there is any changes that needs to be made by you, you can definitely do that. Copilot, it's powered by LLMs. LLMs is large language models. So if you talk about Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, any of the artificial intelligence service, all these services uses this large language models. Now, if I talk about what is large language models, you can consider like there is a database, or you can consider large language model as a hard drive wherein you don't update the hard drive regularly or maybe every day, but you spend a lot of money to provide the details or provide the data which can be used to train these artificial intelligence and provide you the responses based on that. Large language models also work on one thing, which will be like when you are providing a prompt, means you are trying to do a conversation with the Copilot in a human language. So large language model will convert those human language to machine language, look for the information, generate the response, and convert that response again from machine language to human language so that you can read it properly. Copilot also utilizes the Microsoft graph data to ensure like graph is connected with all the services, whether it's a Teams, whether it's Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, any of the services. Or if we talk about the security and compliance within your organization. So graph ensures like the response which has been generated by Copilot. It contains or it maintains the security and the compliance which are created by your organization so that unauthorized person cannot access the content which he should not be. So that's where the graph helps us to ensure the data remain protected within the organization. Copilot also offers seamless integration with Microsoft 365 Suite. As I mentioned, like you can integrate Copilot with any of the services, whether it's a Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you can use Copilot with that. Now, when we talk about the trusted data security, it offers the real-time access to Microsoft Graph for generating the responses ingrained in business content. So, as I mentioned, like when you are using the Copilot, it ensures like when we are connecting the Copilot, the graph plays a key role in it because graph ensures like the security and compliance are managed. So if your organization have any of the security and compliance policy created, Graph ensures that the response adhere to those policies. It also navigates and delivers the precise, contextually aware responses aligned with the ongoing work. So, whatever work you are doing, it ensures that the response which is generated, it delivers based on that particular work that you are going to do, or maybe you are already working upon. It also rests on Microsoft comprehensive security, compliance, and privacy approach. So everything is managed because it's a cloud-based system. So everything is taken care by Microsoft as well to ensure that the data remains with organization. It is not used to train any of the large language models, and it does not get publicly available. So the data that you provide to Copilot, that remains within your organization itself or within your account. So let's take an example. If you wish to access the Copilot, so how do you access it? So I'm going to open a new tab and you just simply type in m365copilot.com. Once you type in, it will ask you to sign in. You don't have to use your personal account. You have to use your work and school account. So which will be your work and school account? The same account that you use to any of these applications or services of Microsoft. Whether you were accessing Outlook, Word, OneDrive, Teams. So you must be using your work or school account to access these services. So that same account you need to use to access the m365copilot.com, because what happens is if you're using any of the Microsoft 365 service, you get Copilot Chat for free. So Copilot Chat, there are two versions. One is the free version and the other one is the paid version. Paid version require a separate Copilot license, which is the M365 Copilot license, which you add on in order to integrate the Copilot with these services. But if you don't have that paid license available, still you can take help of Copilot because Copilot is available on the free version as well. So once you access the m365copilot.com, you will be taken to this chat page, and this is the free version. Now, how you will determine whether you have the free version or the paid version? So in the screen, you see like we have welcome, how can I help, the Copilot, but at the top, you don't see any of the work and web toggle. So there is a toggle button which is available in the paid version, but you don't see it here, which means it's a free version. Now, if you want to see how it looks like in the paid version, I have one account through which I am signed in. And in this browser, you can see at the top, it shows the toggle button of work in web, which means this is the licensed account. This account has the Copilot license available, and I can decide whether I want to fetch the information from work, which is my Microsoft services, whether it's a Teams calendar, Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, any of the services I would like to fetch, or if I would like to use the web, like the internet as the source, I can also use that. But when we talk about the free version, there is no toggle button, which means it will not be able to fetch the information from your organization data, but it will only fetch the information over the internet. So apart from this, in the free version, what you get is this chat. So let's say like you want to create anything, like help me creating a file. So I simply type in the Copilot, like whatever activity I do every day, help me creating a file based on that. So Copilot, what Copilot can do, Copilot can create the Word files for you, can create the presentation for you, can generate the Excel, and also it can generate the images as well. So it depends how it has been configured within your organization. If the images is enabled, you will be able to create the images. If not, then it will create these Word, Excel, or PowerPoint files for you. It can also give you the response as a text as well if needed. So you can see I have asked Copilot, like help me creating a file for day-to-day activity that I do. I did not mention anything like this is what I do every day. So whatever things that I have done, over these accounts. Based on that, it has created these Word and Excel files for me. And if I try to open that, I will be able to open these files as well. So it has just created a generic file. It does not contain any content, but it has mentioned like I can create these files based on my activities that I can do. What will be the date? What will be the start time, end time? What activity I will be doing? What would be the category? Whether I will be working on any of the projects? What will be the priority of it? What's the duration? And is there any notes that I would like to mention? So that's how it helped me creating the architecture so that I can try to use this file for my day-to-day activities. The same thing it has created in the doc file as well. And it has given me some suggestions, like these are some suggestions, the activity types, like the sample activity that I can use in these particular format. Also, it has mentioned about the daily planning and the reflection, the template, like what all that I can achieve. So this is how you can you start a conversation with the Copilot chat. Now, in case if you would like to continue with this Copilot chat conversation, you can also do that, like add a dashboard. Like these are the suggestions which Copilot gives based on my first prompt that I created. So prompt, what is a prompt? That is the chat that I do with the Copilot. So I typed in this thing. This is considered as the prompt. And if I want to continue further conversation, I can simply type in another prompt, or I can use the suggestions which has been provided by Copilot and continue the conversation with it. Now, let's say like you don't want to continue the conversation. You want to start from scratch. So how you do that? Either you go to the chat button on the left top corner, or you can simply click on this blue icon on the right top corner. Once you click on that, it will remove that conversation which I was working upon, and I can start the conversation from the scratch. Now, in this conversation, if I would like to use any file or if I would like to add any file, you simply click on this plus button. And with this plus button, you can add your work content, you can upload the images and files, you can attach cloud files. So cloud files which will be attached to your OneDrive. So this account must be having a OneDrive assigned to this. So we can use that OneDrive and in order to upload any content. Or if you have created any agents, like I have the certification agent or prompt coach, so I can use these agents as well to connect with it. So let's say there is a file saved on my desktop, and I would like to use this file. So I simply attach the file and mention like summarize this file and share the key takeaways from it. So I don't want to open that file or review it completely, but whatever the information which is relevant to me, I can simply use that. With the help of Copilot, it can provide me all the details like what is the document overview, what is the purpose of this document, what are the key updates and takeaways that I can see, what is the major update and when it happens, what is the next additional notes that I have, and further things. And still, if I wish like to continue, I can simply continue with the conversation. Now, whenever you see the conversation, it is always recommended that you validate these sources. So on the bottom of the response, you will see the sources. Right now, I provided this particular file. So this file is referred as the sources. But whenever you try to search anything over the internet, like let's say I'll start a new conversation. What is the weather in Delhi? So currently I'm based out of Delhi. So I wanted to check what is the weather in Delhi. So Copilot will help me with all this information, like what is the temperature, what is the humidity and the air quality, what are the other conditions that are there in the weather, what is the local weather. Now, at the bottom, I'll see the sources tab. So in the sources, this will display all the details from where it has fetched the information. So on the right, you see it has used the Bing search, it has used the AccuWeather.com to find these details which I was looking for. So it has used this web as the source and provided me also the details, what were the sources which were used to generate this response. If I talk about this example, summarize this file. So I shared one file with the Copilot. So will this file be used to train the large language models? Because this was the file which was saved on my desktop and I shared with the Copilot. So will it be used to train the large language models? The answer is no. Because on the top right corner, you see this shield icon which says enterprise data protection applies to this chat. So if you are using the free version also, it does not mean that the data that you will share with the Copilot will be used to train large language models or will be publicly available. No, it will be remaining within your OneDrive. It will be remained within your account itself. And if you are still using the free version also, the data remains protected with your account. It does not get publicly available or it is not used to train the large language model. That is the benefit of Copilot. When in terms of if we do the comparison with the chat GPT or Gemini, that is how the data remains protected in the Copilot. It does not use any of your data and make it publicly available rather than it keep it secure with your account itself. Here is one link also which is available. So you can either simply Google it, Enterprise Data Protection, and you will be able to understand deep into it, like what all things, how the data is protected by the Copilot, and what does this Enterprise Data Protection means. Now, if we say like what is the model version which is being used by the Copilot, so on the top you will see this auto button, and if you click on that, it might be possible that on your side, like you might not have the auto version available, but you must be seeing GPT-5 or GPT 5.2. That means that you have the latest model version which is used by the Copilot. Now, what is the GPT model? This is the large language models, which has the version. So GPT-5, GPT-4. Previously, it was GPT-3 and GPT-4, but now the latest one is GPT-5, and the updated one is GPT 5.2. So if you see the GPT 5.2, which means you have the latest version, and this has been updated on the large language models. Based on large language models, it will provide the response. Now, as this GPT-5, what does this mean? It means that the large language models, which is being used at the backend, that is updated one. That is the latest one. Now, as I mentioned, like it, you can consider those as the hard drive. Like you don't update it daily basis because updating large language models cost millions of dollars to update because you're not updating a single file or a single data. You are updating terabytes or I would say zettabytes of data, which is really a lot and it costs a lot like Microsoft to update these large language models. But Microsoft keeps on updating this information so that you get the better responses. On your side, if you see GPT 5.2, which means you have the smart version, you get the response. Either it will be a quick response or you will, if you see the auto button, it means that you can decide whether you want to get the quick response or whether you want to change it to think deeper, like you have provided a response but you want Copilot to think about it, validate all the sources, and then based on that generate the response. So Copilot can do that as well. But if you have this option, if you don't have the auto option, quick response or think deeper, it means you have the GPT-5, which is the quick response options. It means whatever you type it in, you will get the response quickly. Apart from these options, there is one another option like the temporary chat. The way you use in a browser, like the incognito window, the same way you get the temporary temporary chat, which does not have a trace of the conversation that you will keep. And once you close the conversation, the chat will be cleared. So there will be no history about this chat when you do the temporary chat. So if you would like to create a chat which should not have any of the history and you don't want to keep a track of it, you can use the temporary chat option as well. So that's all about the Copilot chat. There is one more thing, which is this edit in pages button. Now, what is this pages? So pages means the response which was generated by Copilot. Whether you want to make any changes to this page or whether you want to collaborate with your colleague, like you are two colleagues who are working on a project, and maybe you have generated a good prompt. Based on that, you receive a good response. And you would like to use this response to collaborate with your colleague. What you can do, you can edit the page, you can modify the changes, or you can just simply click on create pages on the right top corner. This will create a Word file or maybe a presentation, and then you can share it with your colleague to collaborate with each other so that you can work on this particular response. And based on that, you can create a final answer and use it in your activity or the work that you are doing. So that is where this particular pages will help to do the collaboration or in order to share this response with other people. Also, if you would like to copy the response, you can simply copy the response and share it with your colleagues as well. But when we talk about the collaboration, then at that scenario, you use the pages button. Now let's get back to the slides wherein we are going to understand about the how the Copilot works, like what is the architecture. So if I say how the architecture works is Copilot receives an input prompt from a user in an app such as Word or PowerPoint. So let's say like I'm using any of these applications. So I simply open the Copilot in these applications and try to enter a prompt. So prompt is what? It is a chat that I'm doing with the Copilot. It is a conversation that I'm trying to create with the Copilot to get a response. Now, once this prompt has been shared with the Copilot, what it does, then Copilot will pre-process the input prompt through an approach called grounded. Grounded means it will be like which will be improving the specificity of the prompt, which means like if there is any modification which needs to be done or any information that needs to be added in your prompt to generate a better response, that will be done through the grounding process. Afterwards, it will help you to get the answers that are relevant and actionable to your specific task. So grounding help us with the information, the prompt that you have created to get a better response on that. Once that is generated, that response will be taken from the Copilot to the large language models. Now, what large language models will do? It will convert the human language into machine language, look for the information, add more details into it, and then pre-process it and then post-process it. Now, after post-processing it, it will again convert the final response from machine language to human language and then provide the response to the user. So Copilot will return the response to the app, which means either it would be Word or Excel, or maybe it's a Copilot chat that you're using. And the response will be generated and user can review and assess this response. As I mentioned, like do not consider the response which has been generated by the Copilot as the final answer. Being a human, it's your responsibility to validate the response. And if there are any changes that needs to be done or maybe which are not satisfactory, which needs to be removed from that response, you do it. Because Copilot is your assistant, so ensure like you always validate it. So this is something which is about the normal process or the chat version that you use. Now, if you're trying to integrate with any of the Microsoft services, then how this Copilot architecture works. So you enter the prompt will go through the counting process, and then it will be provided to Microsoft Graph. Now, Microsoft Graph will check your content and the context, the emails, files, meetings, chat, calendars, and contacts, any of the information that you were looking from within your tenant. Once that data has been found, then data will be provided to um, large language model as the step three, you can see. So once that data will be provided to large language model will process that data, the response which needs to be created based on the information. So as you can see over here, when I typed in the prompt was very small. Summarize this file. But what it did, it provided all these details to me. Now, how it processed this response? It processed this response based on the large language model. So, large language model helps Copilot to generate these responses because it works on the context, on the meaning of the user prompt. So whatever the prompt that you put in, it will try to look for similar information, meaningful information, or relevant information which will be helpful for you to get the things done, or maybe for which you were looking for as a response from Copilot. Now, once that response has been generated by large language model, it will go to the post processing to Microsoft Graph again to validate the security and compliance. If there is a file which contains sensitive information and you have a user has asked for that sensitive information file, but when that large language model has processed that response with that file, it goes through the graph, and in graph it will validate whether you are the authorized person or not, whether you have permission to access this file or not. If you have the permission to access this file, post processing graph will provide you the response with that particular file. But if you are not the authorized person, if you don't have permission, or if you are not allowed to access that particular file, graph will not provide you that generated response file by large language model. It will just give you the details which you have asked, but it will not share that file of your organization to you if you are not the right person. So graph plays a key role in ensuring that the security and compliance, the policies which are created by your organization, any unauthorized person should not have access to the files, even though the response is generated by Copilot. So that is where the graph helps a lot to ensure the data remains protected and it does not go in anyone's hand who is not the right person to access it. So that is all about the Copilot architecture. These are the core components of Microsoft 365 Copilot. So if we talk about the large language models are specialized in understanding and generating the human-like test. So as I mentioned, whenever you generate or provide a prompt, you mention something as a human. But large language models are machine, like whenever they are trying to process anything, they work at the machine level speed. So how the large language model helps you to achieve that? It can transform your human language to machine language, generate the response based on the machine level speed, and then again process it from machine to human so that you can read it. It also operates as the generative AI, as I mentioned. Generative AI you can consider as a super brain. Whatever you're trying to think, it will go deeper into it. It will try to look for meaningful information, and based on that, it generates the content. If you're trying to create any image, if you're trying to create a word file, large language models can think as a super brain and produce that content for you. It also provides the engine that drives the Copilot capabilities, and mainly it is hosted on the Azure OpenAI service. So if we talk about the backend architecture, where the Copilot large language models are hosted, it is hosted on the Azure OpenAI service. Then there is the second component, which is the natural language processing, which is the key AI technology for machines to understand, interpret, and respond to human language. So, with the help of large language models, also natural language processing plays a key role in converting these language. It includes the component like tokenization, semantic analysis, sentiment analysis, and language translation. So let's say like you have asked Copilot in English, but you want to generate the response in German or maybe in French. So Copilot can help you to achieve that as well. The third component of Copilot is Microsoft 365 apps. It collaborates seamlessly with Copilot, enhancing the user support across the entire Office suite.